everyone! I thought I'd try something different and talk a little about housing in Korea. Some of you might be planning to come to live in Korea, and some of you might be here already. The Korean housing system can be a little confusing at first, and I'd like to try and help explain it, and along the way teach you some useful vocabulary connected to this topic. Let's start by talking about the main types of housing that you can find in Korea, then we will move on to the various ways to rent or buy a place to live. 오피스텔 원룸, studio apartment. This is the most common type of accommodation for single people. You get a single room which incorporates a small kitchen and a bathroom. In some cases, you might get a living room/kitchen and a separate bedroom. The difference between an opi스텔 and a 원룸 is a bit fuzzy. Generally, 원룸s are in smaller, sometimes older buildings, whereas 오피스텔 are often in bigger, fancier buildings and are generally full option, which is the Konglish way to say that they come with appliances. 빌라, 신축빌라, or villas are small to medium-sized apartments in small, usually 5 or 6-story buildings. They come in various sizes with 2, 3, or 4 rooms. Newer villa are often referred to as 신축빌라. These are generally decorated in a more modern style and aim to be a more affordable version of our next kind of housing. 아파트. 아파트 are apartments in large apartment complexes. Unlike many countries, in Korea, 아파트 are generally seen as some of the highest quality and most prestigious housing. For many Korean people, owning an 아파트 in a fancy complex is the dream. As a result, prices for 아파트 in Seoul are extremely high. 단독주택, 전원주택. It's a detached house. In Seoul, there are a lot of older 단독주택, which are often divided into multiple apartments and rented out. Out of the city, you can find larger 전원주택, which are not usually shared and often have a garden. Many Koreans say that once they retire, they want to move out of Seoul and live in a 전원주택, so they can do some gardening and enjoy nature. I remember when I was in Australia for a few months, I had to pay rent every 2 weeks for my room in a shared house. The deposit or bond was 2 weeks rent. It's quite different from Korea. Here there are 4 ways you can pay for housing. Pay monthly. We call this 월세. You will have a contract for 2 years. If you really push the owner for a 1-year contract, it's possible, but they won't like it. And some owners might say no. So let's just assume that the contract is for 2 years. The deposit, sometimes known as 키머니 or 보증금 in Korean, is probably the biggest difference from Western countries and will depend on how much you pay every month. Normally, the minimum deposit is 5 million won, about $5,000 in Seoul for a 원룸 or 오피스텔. I know that might seem very high, but remember, you will get that money back when you move out. Just a quick note about prices because we're going to be dealing with some big numbers. In Korean, we generally count in units of 10,000, which we call 만. 10,000 is 만. 100,000 is 10만 or 10만. 1 million is 100만, 100만. And 10 billion is 1,000 만 or 10만. If you see a house listing that says 500/70 or 570, this is short for 500만/70만, which means that the deposit is 5 million won and the monthly rent is 700,000 won, which is about $700. In some cases, you can reduce the monthly rent by increasing the deposit. This should be negotiated with the owner before signing a contract. A good rule of thumb is that increasing the deposit by 1 million won should decrease the monthly rent by 10,000 won. So by increasing the deposit on our example house from 5 million to 10 million, we could reduce the monthly rent to 650,000. Bear in mind that these days, many owners are not really open to this kind of agreement. So it's important to discuss it early on. Like many countries, rent and accommodation quality varies greatly by area. You might find a bigger and nicer place outside of Seoul for the same price as a tiny shoebox in the city. Jeonse. This is a rental system that I think is unique to Korea. Basically, instead of paying monthly rent, you can pay one very large lump sum deposit which you get back when you move out. This system can seem a bit counterintuitive, but essentially, you're not paying any rent in exchange for lending your landlord a large amount of money for 2 years. Because we are now talking about even larger amounts of money, we need to learn a new word, 억. 억 means 100 million. You might see a listing which says Officetel 전세 2억. This means that the Jeonse deposit is 200 million won for this Officetel. It's possible to get a loan from the bank for a Jeonse deposit. Often the interest on this loan will be less than you would spend on monthly rent under the Jeonse system. However, getting a loan can be difficult and stressful, so weigh your options carefully. Sometimes it's worth it. If you are staying in Korea long term, Jeonse can be a good way to save money. Some changes to the law in 2020 mean that many owners are becoming more reluctant to offer Jeonse. Over time, we might see this type of rental disappear. 반전세 or half Jeonse is kind of the middle ground between options 1 and 2. With 반전세, you put down a fairly large deposit and also pay a small amount of rent each month. As before, you get the deposit back when you move out, but not the monthly rent. Typical 반전세 for a one-room or Officetel might be something like 1억에 40, 100 million won deposit and 400,000 won per month rent. As before, you may be able to negotiate the terms of the contract. It depends on the owner. 매매, buying a house. This is an option for people who want to stay in Korea long-term or invest in property. Non-Koreans can buy property in South Korea. A typical listing might look something like this. 방 3개, 화장실 1개, 신축빌라 매매 6억. Let's break it down. 방 3개, 화장실 1개, 3 rooms, 1 bathroom. This number doesn't include the main living room and kitchen. 신축빌라, in a new building. 매매, for sale. 6억, 600 million won, roughly $600,000. Remember, this is just an example. Prices can vary a lot by area. A 신축빌라 outside Seoul might be much cheaper, whereas an apart in an expensive area like Gangnam, 30억, 60억 or more. I don't even want to think about it. You might have some questions like, what if the owner won't give my Jeonse money back? Or, what if there are some problems with the house? Next time, I will give you more information on how to find a house and what you need to check before signing a contract. I hope this video has been useful for anyone looking for a place to live in Korea. Thank you for watching my channel. See you soon!